All right, guys, welcome to video 4 of 5 in our IUL Bootcamp. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit, so bear with me. In this video, we will be talking about Ethos now. So just remember, our top two carriers or our top two go-to carriers are typically Americo and Mutual of Omaha. But let's say the client gets declined for Americo and Mutual. You can try Ethos and then ultimately NLG, which I'll be talking about next in the next video. But ideally, if we're going from if you want to know what product or what carrier to start with, ideally I would go Americo, then Mutual, then Ethos, then NLG in that order if they're looking for an IUL. And like I said, I like Americo first and foremost because the client can get up to $450,000 simplified issue, but also their application process has that pre-approval, so you'll know if they can get a policy within literally 2 minutes. And if they get declined, you immediately go to Mutual and pivot there. Get declined with Mutual, go to Ethos, and then NLG. So let's get right into Ethos. So if we go here, this is what the dashboard looks like. You want to go to create a quote and start an IUL quote. So just some features with Ethos. One of the biggest things I love about Ethos too is you can actually do up to $1 million worth of coverage for an IUL depending on the client's age. If they're under the age of 50, I believe they're allowed to get up to $1 million. Simplified issue too. No blood work, no urine work. So just like Americo and Mutual of Omaha, this does not require blood work. So remember, Mutual was $300,000, simplified issue. Americo was $450,000. Now, Ethos, you can actually get up to $1 million, simplified issue, depending on the client's age. But usually, Ethos is typically more expensive than Americo and Mutual. So I don't usually like to use Ethos unless they can't get approved with anyone else. So if we hit start IUL quote, put in their information, gender, birthday, what state they're in. Also, the Ethos IUL is not offered in California. Just a heads up. Non-smoker, and then health class. You can choose the health class. Typically, I do standard. And then once you submit the application, Ethos will get back to you and say, hey, we're actually going to approve them at preferred plus or maybe a worse rating. Just know, depending on what rating they get approved at, a better rating, like for example, preferred, means the premium is going to be cheaper per month. A worse rating means the premium is going to be more expensive per month. Typically, I like to just do standard and then see what Ethos comes back and says. So there's the two ways I like to solve for the death benefit and cash value and premiums and so forth is via Smart Solve and maximum cash value. With Smart Solve, you can either solve for the monthly premium, and this will spit out how much coverage the client can get, or you can do it the coverage way, which you can say, hey, the client wants $500,000 of coverage. It's going to spit out, how much the premium is going to be. We'll do it this way first, just because typically this is how most clients typically want to find their coverage amount. So let's say the client wants $1 million of coverage. You're just going to hit at the bottom, get quote now. There's also frequent knockout conditions. Basically, any of these conditions is a hard decline for an IUL through Ethos. So I like that they have this right here because it's very easy and accessible to see. All right, well, this client's under the age of 30 and they got diabetes, decline. This client has diabetes and their BMI is over 41.49, decline. Their A1C is higher than 9.5, decline. Very simple. So hit get quote now. And then from here, if you look on this right side, for $1 million of coverage for this particular client, the monthly premium is $980 per month. And then it also shows the cash value numbers right here at specific ages. So for this client at age 50, they have $8,000 to pull out tax-free. Age 59, they have $102,000. Age 69, $264,000. And age 79, they have $477,000. And this is based on the assumed non-guarantee rate of 5.79%, just so you guys know. As well as down here, it has those numbers that we talk about. So the MEC premium, remember, it's the same thing as the 10 or 7 pay. It's basically how much money the client can put into this policy per year before it gets taxed. If you go to the top right, you can actually download the illustration. It'll download. And then it'll pop up with this nice PDF, about 26 pages, a very good breakdown for the client that you can go over with. I'm not really going to go into too much detail about it, but it is a great little illustration. Also, one thing you guys should be mindful of is this specific IUL is through Emeritus. So Ethos is not a true insurance carrier. They're just actually a tech company. They're the middleman between insurance carriers. So Emeritus is actually the insurance company that is providing the IUL product. That's why it says Emeritus in here. Just a heads up, so there's no confusion. All right, so if we go back, let's say, for example, the client wants to do, they're trying to solve for, they only have $500 to spend per month. How much coverage can they get? If we do it that way, it'll spit out the total coverage. So in this case, the client can get $486,000 roughly per in death benefit. Now, if you're like, hey, the client wants to maximize their cash value, they want to overfund their policy, Ethos has a very easy way to do that. It's just a maximize cash value feature. So if we were to compare apples to apples, let's say in this case, the client's putting in $500 and we do a smart solve. Remember, for the smart solve, the client can get $486,000 worth of coverage. But if you look at the cash value, let's focus on age 59, roughly 60. They have $48,000 to pull out tax-free. If we go back and we do the maximum cash value, and now we do $500. Also, you can actually change how many, premium payment years, meaning the client's going to pay into this policy for 20 years and then be done, or they can do 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, or pay until age 65 when they're ready for retirement, or pay for life. Typically, I just do pay for life. So 72 years of making monthly payments. Hit get quote now. And so remember, now in the first example, the client was able to get, like $480,000 or something for $500. But now the client's main goal is to build cash value. So we decrease the death benefit in order to increase the cash value. So in the first example, they only had like $40,000 to pull out tax-free at age 59. Now they have roughly $61,000. So by doing this, increasing the premium and lowering the death benefit, this quote-unquote maximizes cash value. So these are typically the two illustrations that I use with Ethos, either the Smart Solve or the Maximize Cash Value, just to show illustrations. It's pretty simple. And then you just go down here and you hit Start Application, or you can actually share the quote with the client if they want to see these numbers live. Now, the thing that I really love about Ethos, two things. One, it's simplified issue up to $1 million depending on the client's age. But two, they give you an instantaneous decision pre-approval, very similar to Americo. So about 3 to 4 minutes into the application, they'll tell you straight up, hey, this client's going to get approved or not. And in addition to that, they typically tell you the exact reason why the client was declined. Meaning, like, if I'm doing an application for a client, after about 3 minutes, Ethos will be like, hey, this client isn't going to qualify for an IUL because they have type 1 diabetes and they use insulin. So they'll typically give you the exact reasoning why. And that's why I really like Ethos for that reason, because then I know the client was lying to me. Because typically clients will be like, oh, I'm healthy as an ox. I do an Ethos application and it shows they have, heart murmurs, arrhythmias, type 2 diabetes, everything in the book. So this really allows you to see, like, okay, this client's lying. Like, can we even get them an IUL or not? In addition to that, if Ethos declines the client, they literally will say, hey, okay, they were declined for an IUL, but we can get them approved with our, our whole life policy or our final expense policy. So they allow you to immediately pivot within the Ethos application, which is also another great asset to have. All right, so that's going to conclude the Ethos training. It's pretty straightforward. Once again, this is typically third on our list in regards to pivots. Americo first, mutual second, or vice versa. Those two can kind of be interchangeable. And then typically Ethos third. And then our last one, NLG, which I'm going to talk about in the next video. That is our Hail Mary carrier, essentially. And I'm going to break down why. All right, hope this helps.